Alright, so in this video we're checking out the Flywoo 04 wide camera set, and this one here comes in different versions. This one here already comes with a lens attached to the sensor board, and of course this is for the 04 standard area and not the Pro. There was a previous video on my channel on the adapter for the wide angle lens. I did a video on this already, and this one is now deprecated. So basically this is a newer, improved version. While this one did help for some situations, for some people, basically you get a lot of reflections because they're basically two layers of glass, and there's also basically vignetting in the corners and on the edges from the adapter itself. So I would not recommend getting that anymore. If you want to get a wide angle on the 04 standard, which is 155 degrees as well on this lens, get this one instead, which is the newest version. Now, if you do upgrade the 04 camera with this set, Firefly 1S here, you want to get the updated canopy. This is a slightly different canopy for the new camera lens. Just be aware of that. You probably want to make sure you get that, because I think this one has a little bit more protection for the camera. And then I will show you the clip-on ND filter towards the end. This is an ND8, and this clips onto the front of the camera here. So as I said, it comes in different versions. This one here comes with the lens already attached, and you can see it's focused, and there's a little piece of glue there on this little plastic housing and this extra sensor board. So if you don't want to take the plastic lens off of the original 04 Air Unit Lite, and so you can remove that sensor board, then there's another version that doesn't have all the stuff. Of course, that's going to be probably a little more difficult, especially for people that don't know how to take apart stuff and may break things pretty easily. Then I would recommend getting this one. So I'll link this one down in the description. But if you just want the parts and you want to just move over your sensor board on your own and then focus your own lens on your own, then there's a slightly cheaper set you can get. So I think that'll be on the website as well. So you get this in this side. You get the lens already in this housing, and the sensor board already glued in. So this is glued in as well. And then it comes with two adapter parts. So you can see that it comes with these two small screw holes here on the side. This is not how you screw it into the drone. You want to use either this one here, which is 18 millimeters. This is going to be for like your standard 19 millimeter analog camera mounts. Or you can go with this more sophisticated mount here. And this one here has the 03 mounts. So if you have a frame with it for an 03 air unit, then use these two screws here. And then for the 04 air unit, you're going to use these two screws here. And these basically, you can use included screws to screw this into the included mount. But you got to attach the cable first before you stick this on. They do include the little sensor cable adapter board here as well. And I'm not going to do my modification on my Firefly because I already modified my camera here where I glued the cable to the board to secure it. So I'm not going to be able to do it on this one here. What I'll do instead is I have another 04 air unit here that I did not do the gluing mod. I did a video on that one as well. So basically, if you have glued your board, which is right here, to this little daughter board, to the sensor board, where you can secure that in case of a crash, it doesn't pop that off and damage it, then you can do the mod that I'm doing here. Because if there's glue here holding this in place, you're not going to be able to get this cable off of here, which is kind of unfortunate because I pretty much did that mod in all mine except for this one. I hadn't gotten around to this one, fortunately, so I can at least do the mod for this one. So again, there'll be a video linked in the description. Flywoo already has instructions and a video on how to put it together. It's pretty straightforward, but I'll link that in the video description. I'm going to go ahead and swap my camera here. I'll show you what it looks like once it's installed. Alright, so I got the lens installed here on this diatone frame, and it can take the 20 millimeter mounts, no problem, and it fits on there pretty good, nice and solid. So I did a 2 flights here with this camera, the wide camera, and the original camera here on this craft. As you can see, there's the original lens on this one. And I'm just going to show you some side-by-side footage. I'm mainly interested in the 4:3 aspect ratio. The 16:9 aspect ratio is definitely better on the wide lens. I just wouldn't recommend flying 16:9 on the 04 on the standard lens. It's very narrow. And so you do get that advertised 117 to 155 degree field of view increase. That is definitely there on the 16:9 aspect ratio. But in my case, I fly 4:3 on this camera, so I wanted to see if there was that much of a noticeable difference between the standard lens and this new 04 wide lens, and it is definitely better than on the adapter that came out before. And previously, when you put that on in 4:3 mode, you get a lot of the lens adapter showing up in the edge of the footage, in the corners and on the edges. Also, the footage would be a little bit blurry on the edges as well, as it's a little bit out of focus because you are going through extra layers of plastic. And they've corrected all of that with this new lens. So in 4:3 mode, you don't get any of the lens showing up in the edge of the field of view. The edges are sharp and clear. Everything is nice and focused. So everything looks really good. Now the field of view increase isn't super dramatic as compared to 16:9 mode, but it is definitely there compared to what it was before. And you don't get the lens adapter, that stuff and junk in the edges of the field of view. You do get a noticeable improvement in 4:3 compared to the lens adapter before. So all around, it is a definite improvement. So here's just some freeze frames from the flights I did. I left them in 4:3 mode. This is without stabilization. I'll talk about stabilization here in a second. And you can see a noticeable improvement in the field of view. Now, what I noticed is that the field of view is more noticeable when things are kind of close to you, when you're kind of doing a lot of close proximity flying. Then you notice the wider field of view more in that instance, versus if you're in a wide open area and looking at things off in a distance, the field of view increase isn't as noticeable. So I'm not sure if some people think that's better or worse. I think the way it comes out is that you get the wider field of view for things that are closer, plus you get pretty straight lines on the edge of field of view. So you don't get this fisheye effect where straight lines turned out to be like warped and curved. So the lens overall is pretty nice. And of course, if you are in an open area, because of the slightly wider field of view, things that are further away just look a little bit smaller because of the wider field of view, but it isn't that noticeable in a wide open area. It's more noticeable for objects that are very close to you. So if your primary goal is to improve your field of view on objects that are close to you, if you do a lot of close proximity flying, then this lens will definitely help a lot, especially in the 4:3 field of view. Another thing I noticed about this lens is the lens flare is very nice. It's got sort of this starburst effect, and I think that's because it is a glass lens. It's actually, I think it's manufactured by RunCam, who obviously are very good at creating these lenses for these FPV cameras. They've been doing it for years, and so they've developed this lens in cooperation with Flywoo, and their parts here for making the new lens mount. And yeah, because it's a glass lens, not a plastic lens like the original, the image overall looks really clean and vibrant, sharper, especially on the corners and the edges of the field of view. And the lens flare is just a lot cleaner looking compared to the original lens, which is plastic. So it's a little bit, the lens flare is kind of blurry, especially on a lot of spots. So if you're looking for a better lens, then yeah, you're going to get this with the new lens from Flywoo. Now, of course, it does come with the big downside. Of course, it does weigh a little bit more. I'll put up here on the screen how much more it weighs compared to the standard lens. It's, you can't get this great image for nothing. If you want an improved lens with glass and everything, you do pay that penalty for the weight. So if you're really, really concerned about the extra grams, then maybe this isn't the right approach for you. Now, regarding gyro flow stabilization, you will need to download their updated lens profiles for this lens, and there's a whole video on how to basically, you load the video file and then you load the new lens profile for whether you're doing it in a 16:9 mode or 4:3 mode, and then it will stabilize the footage like it always does. If you don't use the updated lens profile, the image will get warped when you're rotating on the yaw axis. So you'll know right away that you're not using the correct lens profile because the image just looks all wonky. And so you will need that to correct that. But there's a video, I'll link that in the description, that describes how to do that. It's a very short video, pretty straightforward. Just follow that and you'll get nice stabilization, or the stabilization will work correctly. Now, the thing that I have noticed that I'm having a problem with is on my particular build, I had to hard mount this because this is an older build that was for analog and like the Vista camera, and the this is hard mounted, it's not soft mounted. So while the non-stabilized footage on this, it looks really smooth. I mean, I'm flying around it, and this is well tuned, so there's not a lot of vibrations that I can see even in the non-stabilized footage. But because there's this camera is hard mounted, very small micro vibrations or high frequency vibrations from the motors do get into this camera. And that's the second major downside of the 04 standard camera, is the sensitivity of the gyro on this particular camera and compared to the Pro. So the number one downside was the low, or the very narrow field of view, which this lens corrects, but the gyro is still very sensitive, and in certain moves you get a lot of that vibrations coming through to the gyro, and then you get like basically it messes up the stabilization again. It just looks terrible. It just shakes and just looks like it's all wonky. So what would have been nice is the outer cage that the lens adapter goes into. I think instead of this hard plastic that they have here, they should have made this out of silicone like they do on those mounts for frames. If they have this whole outer cage here in silicone and wrapped around this lens with the the sensor board where the gyro is on, that would probably reduce those high frequency vibrations getting into the gyro. Because it's hard mounted like this, that isn't going to work. So if you're thinking about using this camera like this in a hard mounted situation on a drone like this, you're not going to get good stabilization results, so be aware of that. So I'm going to have to move this whole thing over to something else that has probably a dampened camera mount. So I'll have to figure that out, and I'll try and make an updated video later with some good stabilization results. But I mean, you can see just from this footage, which I'll link in the description, most of the time it's pretty smooth, and you can tell the stabilization is working well. It's just that I think when I make certain maneuvers, I think especially on the yaw axis when I'm making turns, those vibrations get through, and then the stabilization gets all messed up. But again, I think that if they change this outer cage from a hard plastic to a silicone-based mount, then that would isolate those vibrations from the gyro. And I think that I would recommend for an updated version of this. Otherwise, you are definitely going to have to mount this in something that is vibration dampened with some like rubber or silicone, those little silicone rubber mounts. You're going to need that to isolate the vibrations from getting into the gyro for this. The last thing to note is, because I got this version where it came with its own sensor board, with the lens already mounted, I did get a camera calibration error in the goggle footage, and that's pretty much the same as when I got those 03 camera lenses from AliExpress, and you got those same camera calibration errors in showing up in the DVR footage, but it doesn't seem to affect anything. Like the stabilization obviously is still working, the gyro data still gets through. Obviously you can't do anything about the extra vibrations coming through from the drone, but for the most part, other than that error showing up, it seems like the camera is functioning normally, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Obviously, if you get the version where you use your own sensor board and then you take off the plastic lens and then attach this new lens to that, then you're probably not going to get that error because you're using your own sensor board. I think that only happens when you replace the sensor board with one that wasn't calibrated from the factory. So I think what they do is they take the air units and the sensor boards and they connect them and they calibrate them at the factory together. Not sure how much of a difference that makes in terms of footage, but doesn't look like it's going to make that much of a difference. So let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below. It's definitely an improvement over the adapter that they came out with a couple months ago. So if if you have a vibration dampened mount for this, I think you should be good to go, and you'll get really good, nice wide footage from this lens. It's going to be more on par with the Pro, obviously not quite exactly there, but definitely getting more towards that. So that'll do it for this video. Got any questions, comments, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.